Arts Talk Radio online. Interviews and features on the arts in Holland, in English. Hello and welcome to Arts Talk Radio, based in Delft in the Netherlands. We are the broadcast division of the online English language Arts Talk magazine, which is the sister publication of Stage Talk magazine in the UK. We review arts events of all types, as well as having interviews with those who create the arts, both in Holland and the UK. Arts Talk Radio online.
The Woman in Black is the second longest running show in London's West End, superseded only by The Mousetrap. The play, based on Susan Hill's novel, opened in 1989 after having premiered in Scarborough a couple of years earlier. The Woman in Black is directed by Robin Herford, who also commissioned the play over 30 years ago. He still directs the play around the world, as well as the touring productions in England. Michael Hasted of Arts Talk Radio met him for a drink and a chat in the Soho Cafe and started by asking if the play had not become a bit of a millstone.
Well, it's a nice millstone to have. It really is a nice millstone to have.
But you're still actively involved with it?
I'm still actively involved. I change the cast in London every 9 months, so I put 2 new actors in every 9 months. And I visit it every 6 weeks or so, just to see that it's that all is well. But the great thing is that you don't ask the actors to repeat what has been done before.
And how much does it change?
Enormously. I mean, really enormously. You'd be quite surprised that, for example, the show that's running here on tour and the show that's running in the West End have running times of over 12-minute difference. This is the quicker one on tour.
And how does that occur? Why does that happen?
Actors have different rhythms. They play scenes differently. They play different elements of the character. Maybe they, there's all sorts of ways that it can.
But the production itself has that changed at all?
Yes. I mean, basically, if you have 2 actors on a stage, you don't have to worry. If there was 8 people in the cast, and someone said, I think I'd get up here and walk around, you'd say, well, actually, no, I'd rather you sat there because she's going to come in a minute, and I don't want you downstage when she comes in because she's coming. So if you could just stay exactly where you are.
And you wouldn't want to recast it with 8 people.
Exactly. And if you did, then that really would be boring if you had to actually reblock it each time. But with this, you actually, I suppose in prospect, you think, oh gosh, can I do this again? And then you meet 2 people who have never done it before, on the foothills of this particular Matterhorn, and you think, I enjoy the prospect of watching you climb this particular mountain, and it is a mountain.
It's
a big. It's a big ask. It's hugely rewarding to do. I've done it myself. It's an exceptionally fun show to do because it celebrates what actors can do, which is become other people.
It really is almost a sort of showcase for both of them.
Yeah. Over the sort of 30, 40 years I've been in the business, I sort of see actors getting typecast more and more. Whether you get a job in a particular television show and increasingly a theatre show depends on what you look like as you walk into the audition and meet the casting director and the director. It seems.
And dependent on which soap you've been in, because it seems that virtually all the shows that come here is Star of Emmerdale, Star of Coronation Street, and I think that's sad in a way.
So sad. It is so sad because what we have. And again, what this play is able to celebrate is we have in this country an extraordinary depth of character actors and leading actors who are totally unknown to the general public. I was going to say
that you don't have names in
the show. You don't have names. Because now the show is the name. And that is such a relief.
Is there not a fear, a concern from your part that people come to see it just because it's been running for such a long time and not necessarily because it's good? It becomes like a phenomenon because it's been running.
It's sort of self-perpetuating.
Exactly.
What I try and do, to militate against that is direct it myself. I mean, if I had handed it over to a staff director, which is what normally happens, then it's very easy for it to become stale and barren. But because I am able to say, look, for this 9 months, It is your show. You own it. So you know, in a sense, the decisions you make are the decisions that will happen on stage.
And how much latitude do the actors have in the effects and the presentation, the moving,
well, certainly as far as
I mean, how strictly is it blocked into? How much do they have to follow the original thing?
No, they don't have to.
Not at all.
They don't. The set will dictate certain things. I mean,
Has the set changed at all?
Not really. Not really. I mean, I've heard people come into the theatre and look at it and say, well, you know, I was sat behind a couple of Americans in London about 5 years ago now, and a guy and his wife, and he said, look at this, you know, is this the only thing you could get tickets for? You know, and it looks as if it's been, you know, there's nothing here. You know, what is it? And there are only two guys in it? You know, what sort of a show is this?
I was thinking all the way through, it's like that thing about people who prefer listening to plays on the radio because the sceneries and costumes are always better. And this
Absolutely.
was very much like that.
Absolutely.
While we're talking about that, let's get back to the very beginning of it, because surely when you commissioned this, as I understand it, it was a low-budget fill-in Christmas show at Scarborough. With no budget, you had paid 2 or 3 actors.
That's right.
And you just commissioned the thing.
I mean, it was really because I've been told by it was when I was running the theatre when Alan was at the National, and I had 2 years to play in the sandpit on my own, and basically I've been told, look, whatever you do, you've got to spend all your grant, because if you don't spend all your grant, you don't get it next year, you know. So I had £1,000. I thought, what am I going to do with this? And I thought, well, you know, I've got my programme all worked out. All right, we'll do another one. We'll do another show. We'll do a show, because I always feel that around Christmas time, if you don't have children of your own, you're often at a loss to when you might want to go to the theatre. And so I thought, well, this will be a sort of little Christmas present for our adult audience.
But I want to talk more about the mechanics of it, because obviously, I mean, you chose the story.
I said to Stephen,
find a story.
Write me a ghost story.
Okay.
You can either adapt an existing one or you can write an original one, but these are the limitations.
But obviously the scope of this, the physical scope, locations and the number of characters, you must have been in on it at the very beginning, because it could have been totally impractical to do.
Sure.
And it's done almost in a sort of under Milk Wood type of way.
Yes.
You have this enormous cast of characters and locations who are presented in a not exactly a stylistic way, but in a way which demands the audience imagination. How much did you work with the writing of the script? I mean, what stages were you going? Yeah, we can't do that, but if you did that, we could do that.
Sure. I mean, I think that when I first said to Stephen, look, you know, this is it, but these are the limitations, and we're not going to do it. We're going to do it in the bar. We're not going to do it in the main theatre, because I had a show running in the main theatre morning and afternoon. So I said, we'll do it in the bar, which, you know, had a sort of platform end stage, but it was tiny. It was smaller, it was less depth than this room here. He wasn't very impressed. And then he came back and said, have you read Susan's novel, Woman in Black? I said, no, but give it to me, I'll read it every night. So I read it and said, you know, great story, but far too many people. And he said, well, I've had an idea about that. I might be able to give you some change. So, you know, and that's when he had that idea. Oh, what if I make the young man, you know, he's employed a young man to help him tell the story, and then the young man says, well, this guy can't act, so why don't I?
I think that was very clever.
That's the brilliance. That's the brilliance of it, really. And from then on, it sort of flowed. And he I mean, Stephen was a dear guy. He died a couple of years ago, very sadly. But he was always very sort of self-deprecating, and I remember him coming into the bar with it, and he said, well, you know, here it is, I don't suppose it's any good or anything. And I went home and I thought, please God, let it be good enough to do, just to do it, you know.
But it took a couple of years to get off the ground, didn't it? I mean, you did it in Scarborough, then you
did it in Scarborough,
then
yes. I mean, did it in Scarborough over Christmas, and in very short order, time-wise. You know, 3.5 weeks rehearsal, and it played for 3.5 weeks. And then we both thought, well, that's gone rather well, actually. I just wonder if it's got a further life. And Alan came back from the National, and we said to him, look, here's a budget for taking it out on tour, on a sort of smaller scale tour, under the aegis of the Stephen Churchill Theatre. And he said, no, I don't think that's a very good idea, you know, I've got new things to do. And so I said, fine. So we went to look elsewhere, and we hawked it round, basically, and we got a lot of interesting rejection slips. We said, you know, never work.
I mean, so you were obviously very confident at the beginning that you had a winner.
I just wanted to see whether something that had worked and had quite a profound effect in Scarborough. I mean, it really had jumped people.
Was it more or less the same?
More or less, yeah. There've been little. It's a slow honing process.
Because I think the thing about this play is that there is a scope there to do it very small or very large.
Sure, absolutely.
As you say, you could see it, like the King's Head or something like that, almost.
Yeah.
And you could also see it on the stage of the Littleton.
Well, I mean, we've played the Liverpool Empire. We've played the Palace Manchester, 2,200 seater. And it does have an extraordinary capacity to sort of contract, and we also played Hull Truck and sort of Spring Street, sort of tiny little theatres, and the credibility of the story would seem to suggest it's a little old backstreet theatre in the 50s when they hadn't had a show on for a few years, but this young actor knows the stage doorkeeper. He said, well, why don't you you can use that as a neutral place to muck around in,
I'm sort of finishing now. So if we just talk very briefly about your life apart from Woman in Black,
well,
it does seem to dominate it.
It doesn't really dominate. Shows in other countries I have nothing to do with. I mean, I've toured it to India, but in English. I've toured and Hong Kong and Singapore and Australia and New Zealand. But these are sort of one-off adventures.
But you act as well. You played Mr.
Yes,
Kipps.
I've played Arthur Kipps.
You
yes.
consider yourself primarily an actor or director, or both, or is there no difference?
Well, I really do believe that the one feeds the other. I mean, I think there are probably much better actors than me. I think I am the sort of director who hopefully is of some use to an actor. I mean, basically, I am there to get the best, to help the actor get the best out of himself. 80% of a director's contribution to a show is the casting. I think
that too.
It's funny, isn't it?
So it really has sort of dominated your life.
It's been
really.
there, but in any year, it's taken out maybe a couple of months.
Did you never get bored with it? You never think, sorry, somebody else can do it?
Well, no, I don't think. I'm too much of a control freak to let someone else do it.
No, I mean, just to watch it. I mean, I imagine you own the rights of it.
No, I don't own the rights of it. I don't. No, I mean, I get a small royalty for shows that I direct, and so there's a very good reason to want to keep it alive and healthy. But I would go absolutely stark staring mad if it was the only thing I did. I mean, I'm just about to do an Akeborn, followed by a Miller, followed by a Coward before I come back to anything else. So,
but I mean, my first question was, did you not regard it as a millstone?
No.
And you never. Oh Christ, not that again. You never feel that? I mean, sure, there must be some. There are moments.
There are moments, and it's usually in prospect. It's have I got the energy to do that again? Have I got something new to give the people? But actually, that's the wrong way to think. Think what they can bring new to it, and they do. They always do, and that's quite invigorating.
Arts Talk Radio online. Interviews and features on the arts in Holland, in English.